I did get married at 29, and my husband and I had major debt. And I don't know if you guys have ever had suffocating debt, but we were drowning in debt. And at the time, he had dropped out of college. He was freelancing, emphasis on free, literally bringing in no income. I was a special ed teacher. And then I got pregnant right away. And our conviction was for me to stay home with our daughter. So it was like, what in the world are we going to do? Like, this is crazy. Our name is on these debts. Psalms or Proverbs says a good name is better than great riches. And so this idea of like, when debt is in your life, that is something that needs attention. And that is something, there's so much wisdom in dealing with that area of debt before you start thinking about businesses and the types of debts that can also come along with becoming an entrepreneur. So we actually had a course at our church on biblical finances, and we took it. And one of the things they said was, what could you guys do together to generate income? And so honestly, we can't even remember how we came up and cobbled this idea of wedding photography. Now this is in 2005. And because Ryan did go to school, my husband is Ryan, for graphic and web design, and even though he didn't finish, he is just a kind of a technology savant. He just, honestly, he was getting in so much debt with school when he could just teach himself. Because back then, Photoshop, all those things, you think about 2005, he was already ahead of the curve. And so he had this skill set, and he had one of the first DSLR, one of the first digital cameras with a kit lens. Which was like a big deal. If you had a friend that had a digital camera in 2005, you're like, whoa, take my pictures, take my headshot, take my wedding photos. And I think that's what it was. Like, somebody asked him to take a wedding of like a second cousin for like $500. And we were like, $500? Are you kidding me? And it just felt like $1 million at the time. And so my background in business and sales, we've always said we're a great Venn diagram. Like, we have our distinct circles of skills, but where we cross over is passion and creativity. I don't step in his backyard, he doesn't step in mine. And so it actually was a really good, pun intended, marriage of a business, because we jumped in together. He put a website together, a lot of smoke and mirrors. We took free pictures of people that we styled, so we looked like we knew what we were doing when we really didn't. And this is right at the emergence of when wedding photography went from really posed to documentary style. So we hit when the time was right. And there's so much, you guys, I'm sure you see it all the time. A lot of it's timing on stuff. You see, like, when you're at the front end of a change, it just propels you a lot quicker. And it did. And I will say, we did not realize we had this gift between us, and the Lord grew our business so fast. Within a couple years, we were traveling all over the East Coast, shooting weddings. But my husband worked full-time. So he was full-time webmaster for our school district. So he did that. And I worked on albums and editing during the day. Plus we had another child. And so in 2008, I had a toddler, an infant. We booked 28 weddings, plus all the engagement sessions all over the East Coast, and Ryan worked full time. It was an absolute and utter recipe for disaster, because we kept telling ourselves, it's going to get worse before it gets better. We just have to, because the goal was like, we're going to step out of his full time and into this. So we got to say yes to everything. And so I look back now, like, that is our highest income year we ever had. So in all ways, humanly speaking, we were killing it. We made so much money. We were in national publications. We were traveling. And I was miserable. We were hardly civil in our house. Our marriage was imploding. The stress and the strain of working like 80 hours a week, not sleeping, traveling on the weekends, it was killing our covenant. And here we had a baby and a toddler. And really the last card on our very fragile deck of card house was when I miscarried later in that year. And that kind of was that sobering moment of like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? We told ourselves in the beginning we were doing this to get out of debt so that we could have a good name. And now we're destroying our marriage, and we are fighting, and we're realizing this industry swallows people alive. It could care less. You are a newspaper in the wedding industry. You're on a blog, next day, rip it down, next person's up. And I was the machine, feeding, posting, like just absolutely wearing it out to get our name out there. And we had lost sight of everything that mattered. And I will say that God will never, ever, ever ask you to put your marriage or your children on the altar to do this thing that you are passionate about. It's against his nature. If you are married, that is a covenant, a holy covenant. He would not ask you to sacrifice that. If you have children, you made eternal beings. He would never ask you to sacrifice that. And so, yes, there are seasons where it is busier, but if you are not fighting for those first two things, if your triangle is upside down, where all the work is now the biggest one and it's on top, and your marriage is like everything is teetering on that, it will crumble and it will eat you alive. And so I will say the worst and the best thing that ever happened was us blowing the whistle on our own life and just inviting people in. And so we made a conscious decision to take back our marriage. And we cut our bookings in half. The next year in 2009, we were like, listen, we will not take more than 12 weddings and we will do only one a month. And then we'll close out that month and we're going to trust the Lord with our finances. And even after that 12, we said, nope, it's still too much. We still felt like we didn't have enough downtime between, it just still felt a little chaotic, too restrictive. So we cut it down to 8 and then down to 5. And I want to say, just by changing our priorities, the Lord brought in so much extra income into our life through these really bizarre ways of photography, to where people started sending products to our home to shoot. We didn't have to travel. We didn't have to do engagement sessions. We didn't have to work with brides, all these things that were very stressful. We could sit in our pajamas, pull a white screen down in our room, put the office on, and we'd start shooting things. And it was just, the Lord kept blessing this taking back of our family by bringing in other ways to provide for us. And again, this is not a prescriptive story. I'm just describing our journey, because I think that's the other thing, is we want to all push the same buttons to get the same results, and that's not going to happen. And this is where life is just full of discerning and really looking with an honest heart at where you're at and what is on the altar right now.